In my last video, we covered how to use the power of masks and texture painting to control the mixture of two textures or shaders. On that video, one of my amazing viewers asked if you can draw on top of a texture without having to ruin the texture. So today, I'm going to show you all how to do this using a mask with a transparent image. Let's get started. I'm first going to quickly set up my workspace. So in my 3D viewport, in object mode, I'm going to press Shift A, then under mesh, I'm going to left click cube. Then, if I haven't already, I'm going to set up my shader editor. So this might be the timeline here for you, but if I left click this drop down, which might be a clock for you, I can change it to the shader editor, so you're in the same menu as me. Then, with my cube selected, I'll press plus new. I'm also going to set up my UV workspace, since we're going to quickly do that, like we've done in the last tutorial. At the top left hand corner, I'll drag this out. Now I've done this, I'll left click this drop down menu here, and change it to UV editor. In my 3D viewport, I'm going to switch to this material preview mode. Now I'm going to do some nodes. If you're not used to materials and shaders in Blender, but want to learn more, you can check out my Texture Basics course, which is free on YouTube. Otherwise, you can just follow along with the tutorial. The last video may also help you understand some of the concepts we're talking about. In the description below, I've given you a download of a bunch of textures. You can choose whichever texture you want, making sure it's one of these smart UV textures, and one of the base color ones. So in this case, I'm going to left click and drag one of the brick base colors. Since it's a base color texture, I'm going to keep the color space at sRGB, and I'm going to press Shift A, then under input, I'm going to left click texture coordinates, since we're going to want the texture to access the UV coordinates. Then I'm going to plug my color into the base color. Now you can see our texture has to be mapped properly, and I'll show you how to fix this in a second. First though, I'm going to quickly save my document. So I'll press File, and I'll save as, and choose a place to save it. Now I've done that, in my UV editor, I'm going to left click this image button, and choose our brick texture. Now when I press Tab, and go into edit mode, and press A to select all the faces, you can see that the faces here are unwrapped like this by default, and they aren't lining up with each face on the texture. I'm not going to dive too far into UVs and how they work just now, since I've made tutorials on this before. For now, I'm going to do a quick unwrap. So I'll press A in my 3D viewport to select everything, making sure I'm in edit mode, and then I'll press U, and then Smart UV Project, and I'll set the island margin to 0.02, and keep the angle and area weight as is. Now, if I go back into object mode, you can see the texture has been lined up properly, and we're ready to go into the next stage. Now our cube is UV unwrapped, and the texture is applied, I'm going to go ahead and create the texture to go on top. So first I'll press Shift A, then under texture I'm going to left click image texture. Now I'll press plus new, I'll leave these as is, and I'm going to change the color by changing this alpha to 0. This will make this a transparent image. If I plug this into the base color, you will see we have a plain black cube now. I'm also going to plug the UV into the vector. So first I'm going to add a mix RGB node. So I'll press Shift A, then I'll search for mix RGB, and I'll plug that in here. So I've plugged my brick base color into color 2 and my untitled into color 1. And I'm going to then change in this UV editor the image to the untitled, just so we can see it. If I change my factor down to 0, we can now see the untitled image we have created. Now I'm going to change from object mode into texture paint mode. Now when we paint, you can see we're painting onto this image. However, how can I get it so only the white is showing on top of the brick, but the brick texture is unaffected? I'll plug my alpha into the factor, and we're going to need to switch color 1 to where color 2 is. And now we can see when we apply white, it applies white on top. Changes to a blue color, then change my strength up to 1 and apply on top. Now, although this seems to be working well, there's also a small technique we can use to harden up the edges on what we've been drawing. So one thing I can use is the handy color ramp node. So I'll press Shift A, then under search, I'll search for color ramp. Then I'll add this in between the alpha and the factor. As I bring the white closer to black, the edges will get harder. If you wanted to have them absolutely hard, you could also change it from linear to constant. And now you see we can create that effect when we paint. If I change this back to linear and bring this back to normal, another thing we can do to create hard edges is to change the brush. So if I drag this out to make a bit more space here, and under fall off, I can change it to this square preset here, and now it will automatically create hard edges. Notice how they don't change when I harden the edges here, since they're already hard. So yeah, this is the basics of how you can use masks to draw on top of an image without ruining the image. Noticing how if I plug my brick texture back into base color, the brick texture is still the same and has not been ruined. But yeah, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and if you did enjoy it, please make sure to like the video and subscribe for more, and you can also share it with someone you know if you think they'll find it useful. Thank you again, and take care.